Broncos country, what is going on? Hope you guys are having a wonderful week. And this is the highlight of my week. I got my good friends.
Yo, that was actually unbelievable, impeccable timing.
Incredible. Yeah. Well, let me do that over again. I hope it didn't upset you, Jeremy. But I got my good friends, Jeremy, Sean Otten, and Marky Sports. Jeremy, what's going on? Mark, what's going on? Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, what's up, man? How's it going? Nice. Thanks for having us, man. I'm excited. This is the highlight of my week too, for sure.
No doubt. I got my good friend Rawhide in here. We got Let's Talk Nuggets, a young creator. Go subscribe to him. Go subscribe to Rawhide Media. Go subscribe to Marky Sports in the comments. We got to get you at least to 500 by the time the regular season starts. So, y'all, please go support our YouTube community. But, man, let's go ahead and get into it. We got a lot to talk about, but I'm going to kick us off here. Bo Nix was amazing for his preseason week 1 debut. I have watched the All-22 tape 2 times through now.
Wow.
I counted only 3 snaps where that man had bad footwork, the first being the first 2 plays. Overall, was pleased. Might I be glazing, guys, in the fact that I really do feel like we could have the second best quarterback in the division when it's all said and done. Am I getting a little too crazy? Probably. But I'm just wondering your thoughts. We can start, Mark, first with your takeaways from Bo Nix's performance. Then, Jeremy, you can back clean up for us.
Sure.
Yeah, man. I thought he looked great. The eye test was even better than I think what the stats on paper showed. Mm-hmm. I was pleased. I wasn't necessarily really surprised by a lot of things. The one thing I might have been a little surprised with, even though I knew he was a lot more athletic than people thought, you really saw it. Like he's really nimble, but overall it was solid. And super excited. It's almost like I felt like I was in a way living in a dream world. I was just explaining before how, I was on a 3-week trip before that. So yeah. I came and all of a sudden the Broncos game was on. So it just all didn't really sink in until a couple of days later. But yeah, man, thrilled. I think it was great. And most importantly, I want to see him build on it. So looking forward to that.
No doubt. Jeremy, your thoughts?
Yeah, to be honest, I was super excited watching it. At that 3rd down and 10, as soon as he completed that, I go, oh, we're here. We're good. After that, I felt super comfortable. It was exactly the kind of quarterbacking I saw at Oregon last year. He looks poised. He knows what's going on pre-snap. He doesn't take sacks. So some of that footwork stuff that people are like, it's amazing how we could go from being ecstatic to the fact that we have a rookie quarterback looking fantastic to being like, well, wait, everybody, he might be bad, even though he statistically was great. That's like last year's Oregon. It's like, I know he threw 45 touchdowns and 3 picks, but he's not that good. You're like, he is obviously, but yeah, no, it was one of those things where he doesn't the you could say it looks like happy feet sometimes, or he doesn't set his feet, but he's feeling the pocket. And so he'll slide depending on what's going on instead of standing there and then just going to take a hit, especially in preseason. Let's not take big hits in preseason. He's sliding to get enough time to where the guy's going to flash open and then he's going to throw it. So it's exactly what I saw last year. It's nice that it's translated over. Obviously, it's, he's taken to Sean Payton's system, and, those, from all accounts, those play calls and learning the nuances and everything in the huddle and everything like that, that's a lot for anybody to do, for a young guy doing that. And then just seeing him my favorite thing was seeing him at the line of scrimmage and then just being calling people out, looking over, just directing traffic. The one time with Vele where they had the miscommunication in the end zone, he was in Vele's ear right after that. The guy is a leader, a born leader, and you can just see it.
Somebody pointed out in the comments, and I've even watched the film again today, and I forgot to check this, but they mentioned that Bo Nix was the only quarterback out there for the Broncos that didn't have an armband. And I thought that was really interesting. that being insane. Brought up. Stidham's been in the system for a year. Zach Wilson has been in the NFL for a few years now. The fact that he wasn't wearing one, I thought was when I heard that, I was like, wow, yeah,
that's interesting. I never heard that before. I didn't. It's the first time for me. So
I did hear that, and it was even surprising because it was like, oh, why not just wear it just in case, when the bullets start flying? And he was like, no, I don't need it. And it was the fact that if anybody was not going to have one out, you'd think it'd be Stidham because he's been in the system for a year. But the fact that Bo is the one that didn't have it was pretty surprising.
And I'll say this, I know JT O'Sullivan, like I watch a lot of his QB school videos, and his Bo Nix one did really well. A lot of people watched it, but his whole thing, I think he had maybe 5 plays or so where he was picking at probably the 3 plays with the bad footwork and a couple plays where he wishes that he would have chosen to take the deep shot in a couple plays. I mean, if you're just watching the JT O'Sullivan cut up, you might think, there's not really much to be impressed with. But I think, hey, the fact that he played, about 2 quarters, you had 5 plays that you would really, from his perspective, that he'd really want to coach up. Again, from what I saw was a lot of calm, good footwork for like 90% of his throws. You saw the accuracy and the zip on all the Oregon stuff. Like he looked like you said, Jeremy, you wanted to see that quarterback from Oregon, not the quarterback from Auburn. And I think the vast majority of what we saw was that type of quarterback. The accuracy, the zip that he put on the ball. I don't know if you guys had like a favorite throw, but my favorite was definitely that RPO action on 3rd and goal on the 1-yard line where he just zips that thing to Mims, him coming across the formation on that flat route. I can't remember the last time we've had a quarterback be able to throw that type of pass.
That's a hard throw.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be your favorite. I think for me, it's funny. I watch a lot of the film gurus, the film breakdown people, because I'm just not good with that kind of stuff. That ain't my whole forte. So I leave it up to the smarter people like you and the other ones, David. But I think I was watching Tim Jenkins on his channel. He was breaking down. I really like his content. And I kind of noticed it in a game, like during the game when I rewatched it a couple of times, but I didn't think, I was like, maybe I'm just incorrect on this. But then he ended up bringing it up, and it was super interesting is when I think it was during the 2-minute drill after we got the ball back from the pick, and he hit Lucas Kroll. And then on the second one, they actually had a screenplay. He literally had a screenplay set up. The screen wasn't there. Yes. And he took off the other way and dumped the ball off. The only times I've ever seen, I always see it, if a screen's not there, they either are dirting it or are running, like the quarterback will try to take off running, and that's about it. And he just calmly went the other direction, looked to maybe run, dumped it off to Kroll, got a few more yards. And so I was thinking, damn, that's kind of, and it could be that the play call is called that way. Like it could be one of those situations where it's like, if screen's not there, instead of dirting it, look for this. But it was pretty interesting to see on that. And I thought that was really telling as well, but definitely not surprised by anything that I saw, because I feel like his strengths have always been there. It was really nice to see it in action, which I'm excited to hopefully, continuing as we go closer to the regular season. So,
yeah, the fact that he didn't panic and there were a couple plays where I felt like the screens were blown up. I think that other one was like a dump off to Jaleel McLaughlin, and it kind of went off of his hands, or it might have been Estime. I can't remember, but
it was McLaughlin. Yeah.
Yeah. But both of those plays, like you just didn't see panicky feet again. Like those first 2 dropbacks did not look comfortable. But Jeremy, when you brought up that 3rd and 10 rolls out, from the pressure and is able to just off platform. A lot of people are like, well, he's throwing off platform. He doesn't set his feet all the time. That's just not realistic in today's NFL, I don't think. And he made a ton of off platform accurate throws that I just, again, it just seems like a whole new world as a Broncos fan since we've had this type of dynamic quarterback play. Maybe that's an overreaction, but this is who we believed him to be. And you get some of the signs of that confirmation this past week.
Yeah. Let us have some fun. I mean, it's been such a treacherous 8 years Let us enjoy this moment. Let's just enjoy it. Eat it
up. It's just so easy to see also like juxtaposing Russell Wilson last year to like Bo Nix right away. So when you see a 3rd and 10 and you see a guy feeling pressure from the backside, that one play is probably my favorite play. That the one that you talked about, Mark, that is ripped straight from the Oregon offense. I could show you the exact play that they did at Oregon, the exact same play. And that, like you said, that's a hard throw. It has to be perfect. And it was basically a handoff. But if you don't have the zip on it and you don't have the accuracy of it, it's risky because it could go the other way. The 3rd and 10 one, you know, he's looking down to his right. He feels pressure backside. So that he has good pocket awareness. Then he has the mobility to move, and then he has the arm talent to get it to Courtland Sutton. And not only that, Courtland Sutton can't go left or right. He has to be right there and is put right on his face mask. So it's like you have, you know, accuracy, arm talent, mobility, and pocket awareness all in one play. And that's his first series. That's his 3rd play ever. And it just goes to show you like, oh yeah, this guy is the real deal, you know? And that play that you were talking about where the screen pass, he does this thing. He did it a couple times. He did it on his scramble that he got us when it was 3rd and 3 and he scrambled for a first down, where he does like, he'll start to move the pocket or leave, and somebody will be right there and he'll do like a stutter because he knows that guy's 300 pounds. I'm, you know, 230 or whatever I am, and gets him to completely stop his momentum and then takes off again. And therefore now he has the space and speed to beat that guy. And he did that on that screen as well. He started to move, saw a guy right there, kind of stuttered him, and then moved again. And then saw, I don't remember who it was it little Jordan Humphrey or somebody for the first down. And and you just go, oh my gosh, he didn't pirouette going backwards into a sack.
No.
How refreshing is that?
And I'm actually happy you brought that up too, Jeremy, because one thing I just wrote down as a talking point was another thing, like you talk about the Russ comparisons, is how quickly were they getting out of the huddle and getting into the line. I noticed there was like 15 seconds, 12 seconds on the play clock every single time. It was never, I mean, I know it's preseason and the play calls are probably a little bit more vanilla, but I mean, it was just like, even that part of the operation was smooth, where last year it was like, how many times they had to burn a timeout, or there's, 5 seconds left and they're, getting up there late and the play calls are coming in late. So even that part from a Russ comparison, I think was really refreshing too.
And it just goes to show you, like, that's the part where I was talking about. Sean's playbook is so immense, and just the play calls, I guess, are just like so wordy and long. That's what's part of the problem with, like, you're hearing Sean say it into your ear, having to wait for the whole play call, make sure you get it all. Now you got to, in the huddle, you got to tell everybody, make sure they got all of it. Then you get to the line, and now you got, and now you're like, oh, there's 2 or 3 seconds left. And that was the problem so many times last year. And the year before, we're counting it down for Russ, because it's like, I wonder if we're going to do that week 2 if Russ starts, just for fun.
I hope we do.
That would be mean.
I don't think that man is starting this year.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, is like, are we even going to see him? I don't know. I doubt it.
We'll find out here in a couple weeks, but I gotta say, some of those plays, it's like you don't want to see Bo Nix have happy feet, but man, the composure that he had in the pocket, he wasn't, like you pointed out, Jeremy, he wasn't drifting back past the protection into sacks. He wasn't like, there were a few throws, particularly one that sticks out to me was the one where he caught that DB. It might have been Reynolds or Vele for that pass interference call. It was a little underthrown, but to Vele. But he stood in there and, took a little bit of a hit while he was delivering that. He showed the ability to stand in the pocket, throw when guys are around him. Like, I think that you can work with the happy feet that you saw earlier and kind of coach that out of him as he gets more comfortable than dealing with a guy who continually drifts and, does a disservice to their protection. So many times he went in there mainly with the quick outs and the shallow unders. And I think some of the medium routes when we go back and look at it, but he would stand in there, he would set his feet and fire in at different arm angles. And that's there was just so much more good than bad I think like right now, man, I don't feel crazy at all saying that. I think he will be, when it's all said and done, a top 3 quarterback in this class. I just don't see how this thing isn't going to work out when you have Sean Payton and this offensive line with him.
Yep. Yeah, the fit, and we talked about it pre-draft. The fit is the most important piece. So I would agree. I think that fit, that mesh is so perfect, and then add on top of it, the intangibles and the talent. I'm right there with you. I think he could be top 2 even.
Yeah. And remember with Peyton Manning, he would always it's like in tennis or, I play pickleball. It's like he kind of split steps. He kind of like resets. He looks over, resets, just so he's facing the right way each time. His feet are positioned properly each time. So it's almost was like that a little bit. There was a couple plays, like you said, that he kind of had his feet moving while he was throwing, and they're like, oh, well, we don't like that because that could hurt accuracy. But it's like, even with that, he was accurate. So, and he did it so many times. Like him moving his feet, he's as accurate as somebody who's setting their feet is typically. And for a rookie, you see typically when you feel any sort of pressure or you feel uncomfortable, what's the first thing that they typically do is they take off running and they just put their head down. When he scrambles, he keeps his eyes up.
Yes.
And it wasn't until he makes the decision of, oh, I'm going to take off, that he starts to do that. But he'll set it up. He can even set it up with his eyes, where the guy's like, oh, is he going to throw? Is he going to throw? Nope, he's taking off. And he's so quick, he's so athletic that that's a weapon just with his eyes. His eye manipulation is so good.
The anti-Russell Wilson. I mean, that's that's kind of how I feel about all this. Unless there are some other points that you guys wanted to make with Bo Nix from this game. I want to talk about some of the other players, winners and losers, but I want to get your guys' thoughts too on what you're looking, if anything, to see from Bo Nix this week against the Packers. Of course, you want to see him string together another really strong performance, but JT O'Sullivan brought this up where, hey, we had a lot of soft coverage on the outside, which was allowing Bo Nix, Sean Payton to really take advantage of the quick game. One thing that I'm kind of hoping is that the Packers give our wide receivers a little bit of a press, see how Bo Nix reacts if, that initial quick out isn't going to be available, or if they're not allowing that outside leverage that the Colts seem to give, how does he react to that? That's something that I'm hoping we'll see, but it might just be another vanilla defense, and Bo Nix will kill you by 1,000 cuts with that, just leaving the outside and the underneath available.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was like, I totally agree with you. I want to see somebody press us so that way he can go through his reads and find people. And I think I've seen him do it. I know he can definitely do it. So you don't want to get a book on somebody of being like, oh, everything is going to be short, so play up. It's almost like Steph Curry. It's like, if you want to press up on him, he has the dribbling skills, just go right by you. But if you're going to give him any space at all, he's going to hit you for 3. So pick your poison, basically. And one of the things with Nix that I thought was completely overshadowed with a lot of those breakdowns, they somehow they forgot to mention it, or they didn't draw on it. But that throw to Reynolds in the end zone, that completely went through his. If that's a touchdown, which it should have been 9 out of 10 times, then everybody's really freaking out, because, I mean, yes, he ended that drive ended up getting a field goal and all that other stuff, but then you're like, oh my gosh, he's hitting it deep, he's hitting this, you know what I mean? And that play on the breakdowns, I don't know if Tim Jenkins did it, but it's just like, that's a perfect ball. That was a dime, and drops happen, but
he
that
early,
completely goes forgotten about.
Yes. Yeah, that throw.
Yeah, I'm excited about this game. Sorry, real quick. I'm excited about this game. Obviously, I think this is the best game for him to start, because they're gonna, starters are gonna play more specifically on the defensive side. So that's gonna be good for Bo to get more of a true test instead of just one drive. But I think just building on it, you want to see him be consistent. He's gonna make mistakes. He might make it in this game. We can't have these crazy high expectations, but I think just seeing seeing the good things continue to stay good, and then seeing improvements on everything else. So
no doubt.
I'm thrilled. And then the joint practices, I think, even more importantly than the games.
That's what I was about to say. Yep, Friday is going to be probably more important than Sunday, because
it starts tomorrow too,
because I don't think the Packers will put out their starters for the game. So what you're going to hear out of practice on Friday is probably the most valuable information about how people did, because that's the one where it's both going to be playing. You know, that's where all the camp fights are, and it's intense, and everybody wants to prove something to their coaches, and you know, it's just that's the one practice all of training camp that if you had to say which one would you circle as the most important, that's the one.
Love it. Now, I do want to transition to talk about obviously other players on offense and defense, but I want to stick with the quarterback room. I was really impressed from what we saw from Zach Wilson, somebody who's had very up and down performances throughout camp. I mean, the biggest thing that I noticed with him was that there wasn't one drop back he had that had bad footwork, or I thought he had poor process making. I think he threw close to 80% completion during his stint. Very impressed. Granted, against the third and fourth string teams, but with Zach Wilson, with the type of play he's had in the past, I'm not even going to worry about that. This is the first step in having a successful quarterback rehab period, is to see him go out there and play with confidence. I thought that he looked like he was playing within the system. He had good footwork, seemed to be confident with where he was going and what he was doing. And I thought that, again, my take has been I would like to keep all three quarterbacks on the active roster for this year. But if he continues to have a preseason like this, I wouldn't mind considering cutting Jarrett Stidham, saving $5 million, to help deal with that dead money next year we got on Russell Wilson's cap hit. But your thoughts on Zach Wilson, and I guess we can also get to Jarrett Stidham as well. I thought it was pretty par for the course from his performance at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I talked about it on a couple of days ago. Actually, I think I put that up. I think ultimately we're going to probably keep all three, but I think considering moving on from Stidham, could be smart, just like you said, for the cap hit reasons and the money that we would save. I don't see really much of a difference. I think if we had to rely on one of them to come in and win a couple games, I might feel a little bit more comfortable with Stidham, just because I've seen what Zach Wilson can do, and he's a little reckless. But he definitely looked more comfortable. I felt like he better of against a bunch of third and fourth stringers. But I mean, that's what happens when you go from Nathaniel Hackett to Sean Payton. I think it's quite a whirlwind, and you're going to look a lot better, because he was in not the right situation last year at all. So, and then it was interesting. I did see it wasn't a report, but somebody had brought it up on Twitter, talking about could the Minnesota Vikings call? Now they need a quarterback for somebody like a Stidham or Zach Wilson, and who would you rather listen to offers for? So it could be a possibility. Any team that's looking for a solid backup that can
Rams
win you games, or at least is experienced. Yeah, Rams are another one. Stidham or Zach Wilson makes sense. So I'm totally fine with that happening too, and I'm totally good if they keep all three.
Yeah, Jeremy, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think in the game, I think Stidham was very unlucky. There was 2 drives that ended up, he was rolling in that first drive, and the Tim Patrick taunt was, which was so soft, but that kind of derailed things a little bit. Then we had a McFlinchy shows back up, and then Garrett Bowles holds.
Bowles got his penalty too.
Yeah, we're playing the hits. All right, awesome. But that kind of derailed the first drive, and then the second drive, same kind of thing like that. And then you have the Pirine just making a mess out of that one, dump off, and you're like, if you're Jarrett Stidham, you're like, what the heck was it? What? He was rolling. So on the stat sheet it looks bad, and Zach Wilson looked so much better, like you said, against the 3s and 4s. watching this whole preseason, all this whole training camp, Stidham's been well ahead of Zach Wilson.
Yep.
So we can't just throw that away. And I think having a year under your belt with Sean Payton is really valuable. I think, you can save the $5 million, but Zach Wilson would really have to close hard here in the last couple of games, I think, to, trigger a release with Stidham, just because I think Stidham is steady, and he's the type of guy that if something would happen to Bo, for a game or two or in the middle of a game, you just can trust that he's going to come in, he's going to know his stuff, and he can steady the ship.
He won't throw away a game for us.
Right. He's not going to light something
sack
up. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's Zach Wilson has the best arm, but Sean Payton wants a guy who's going to run Sean Payton's offense. It's not a throwing contest. It's a running the offense contest. And that's right now, Stidham is definitely better at that. But it shows Zach Wilson is, he's got to be just so thankful that Sean Payton took a chance on him, because his street cred, coming into this season was not good. And the fact that Sean Payton wanted him, and then he puts up type of performance for the preseason game, you go, okay, this guy, it was the opposite of what we saw in New York.
Yes.
And just calm and taking what was there, and just, it was good to see. And again, like you said, if you get a phone call and you get a good offer, great. And it's going to be tough. There's going to be a lot of cuts. I'm sure we'll talk about it, but there's going to be a lot of positions, wide receiver. There's so many positions where you're like, man, there's going to be some tough decisions, and keeping 3 quarterbacks is going to be a tough decision too.
Yeah. I don't, I know that some people have still brought up hey, can probably keep Zach Wilson on the practice squad. After a performance like that, again, he could go up against the Packers this week and just look absolutely terrible, and that might change things. But if he performs the way that he did this past week, I just don't see him being able to get away, or the Broncos being able to get away with him on the practice squad. But I do think now that you got me thinking about this, Jeremy, it's probably best for Zach himself maybe to just sit as that number 3 quarterback for a while, get away from all of that pressure, expectation, the dysfunction, the bad offensive line in New York. Take a year to just really fall in love with football again. And to me, he looked like a player, and in his press conference, that just really enjoyed being out there. New York will chew you up and spit you out real quick, especially with no protection. I think the fact, and credit to the offensive line, no sacks given up. I think just a couple of hits on the quarterbacks the entire game. But they also did their part, including Zach Wilson, on getting rid of the ball early. He was not holding onto the ball. So credit to them, man. Credit to them. Any last thoughts on that, or do you guys want to start highlighting some other players that deserve to be talked about?
Yeah, no, I'm ready to move forward. Just one last quick thing. It just got me thinking. I think it's so funny we're talking about the backup quarterback, and we don't care who they end up going with. If they trade it, it's fine. It just makes me think about all the people that were like, Broncos shouldn't draft a quarterback. They're not in a position. These guys suck. It's like, could you imagine how incredibly boring the preseason game would be? This time of the year would be if we were really talking about Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson competing. Come on. So that's all I got.
Feels like a Teddy Bridgewater year if that was the case.
Yeah.
Remember that? It was just like Vic Fangio and Teddy Bridgewater, and you're just like, why? Just I know that you're bound for. Best case scenario is 500, and you're not doing anything. Like, what's the point? Like, put Drew Lock in, let it ride. Like, come on, dude. That's like people. That just shows you the difference, especially having a defensive coach and just like living in their fears about like, I just want somebody who can do that, and not you guys handle that, and some random offensive coordinator. It's just gonna be. Knock on wood, but like having the same system with the same quarterback for multiple years is going to be just so refreshing in the city. And especially I love Bo Nix, but I love Bo Nix with Sean Payton. And those two together I just feel like it's a perfect match, and you just give them time and let it, he's so mature already, but like, what's it going to look like in 2 years? I can't imagine it's going to be, you said hopefully second in the league, second in the division. Let's push for first. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't know what's going to happen. Things change really fast. Look at like Minnesota and Atlanta, that, they're, who knows what's going to happen with their quarterbacks. San Diego now, Herbert has the foot injury. Yeah. So things, Ferris Bueller, life moves fast. You know what I mean? So just build while you can. And it's just so nice it feels like things are all kind of set up, like ownership set, coaches set, GM set, and hopefully now quarterback is set. And now we can just build properly.
It's crazy when you commit to a vision, as an organization where everybody's aligned from top down, and you stick to that and keep continuity. What can happen, right? It's amazing.
Definitely.
And
it's a young team built in that right image too. As hard as letting certain people go, the Justin Simmons and those type of leaders, and Russ was like obviously one of like the vocal leaders and all that kind of thing. This team is now made up in the coach's image of what they want. And I don't know if you guys saw, it just came out earlier today, the interview with Sean Payton and Kay Adams, but he said, I love having a young team because they don't know that they're not scared. They don't know to be scared yet. They don't know that, the ceiling is only this high. You know what I mean? To them, it's like, why not? And he loves that. And, you realize, this is the first time Sean Payton's really drafted a quarterback and had a rookie in camp, and it's going to probably be starting a rookie. And that's different for him. But you can just tell, like we said this before, but like now that we're this far into the preseason, Sean Payton is like so excited about this team. The energy is so much different than a year ago.
Yeah, I don't think you'll see him. I think you'll see him get vocal with Bo Nix on the sideline, but I don't think you're going to see it as animated as you saw it with Russell Wilson at certain points, with him killing plays and running plays before he can challenge. Like, there's just going to be so much more alignment. Everything just feels right now, and that's a feeling that we just haven't had in so long. It feels great, but want to talk about some other players. Maybe we can just kind of popcorn some different guys that stuck out to us in the game. I guess I've already talked about Zach Wilson. So Jeremy, Mark, if you guys got a name of another guy that you want to speak on, I'll let you guys take the reins.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah. I think that there was a lot. There was a lot that I was intrigued by. I think I want to see a little bit more of, for sure. I talked about the running back rooms. We don't have to get too much into that, but for me, it was Chris Abrams' drain on the defensive side. I saw some stats. He looked really good in the action that he played. He obviously, he had like no completions, couple pass breakups, a really great PFF rating. The quarterback rating was super low, and I think he's a huge dark horse. I loved him when we drafted him. When I started looking into him a little bit more afterwards too, and he looks the role. And I really thought he was going to be projected as more of a slot guy, a nickel in his team, and I thought it'd be hard for him to get on the field year one because we got McMillian playing there, but he can compete, man, for that second cornerback spot. And it wouldn't surprise me if he gets more reps. So I'd definitely love to see that.
Yeah, his interception was real nice there at the end of the game too. On that, was it a 2-point or I forget?
Yeah, it was a 2-point conversion.
Yeah, really nice. And I got a film room. Actually, I just dropped it. Coming out.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know you talked yesterday about dropping it today.
Yeah,
so I got to check that out.
I got a whole bunch more coming tomorrow, but yeah, was really impressed with him in coverage. Again, I don't think it's a coincidence why PFF graded him as the top guy in the game in coverage. And I think he's got some room to grow with the run defense and some of the physicality stuff, but that's what we knew coming in, that he just need to put on a little bit of strength, and then that'll come in due time. I thought he showed enough fight to where you feel good about where he's at right now.
Yeah, he's feisty, and you love to see it. Like, the thing about him was all preseason, all camp, you really didn't hear about him. And the more you realize, oh, that's probably a good thing when you don't hear about certain cornerbacks in preseason. Like, no news is good news. Because I remember certain years where like, you got burnt this, they burned this guy, they burned this guy, they burned this guy. And you didn't really hear about him or Mathis a little bit. But, it sounds like from that interview earlier, like it's Mathis or Moss for that starter role. And Wallace is obviously there too. But Drain is kind of like that. It's nice to have depth. And he played the most snaps and he played well.
Yeah. I think
it's kind of messed up too that you don't get credited with an INT on your stats if you pick off a 2-point conversion.
I know. It's so dumb.
I know. The most important interception in Denver Broncos history, one of them, is that pick that we did in the AFC Championship where Aqib Talib tipped it and then Bradley Roby picked it for that 2-point conversion that solidified the game. And it's like, that's an interception.
Yeah, that's a pick. That's a pick. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah. You can mark it however you want, but that was the most clutch play ever. We needed it. And, I totally agree. Speaking of real quick of what Biggie Bronco just put in the comments, one of the things that I wanted to mention and I forgot, and I'm glad you mentioned this, is people were like talking about Bo Nix again real quick, is they were saying, oh, well, we don't have a huge sample size of him on 3rd and long about how he deals with stuff. And it's like, yeah, because he gets the ball, he'll take the 3 and 4 yards like when there's nothing. And now we're in 3rd and 3s instead of 3rd and 8s and 3rd and 11s. And now it's like so much easier. But it's like they just think that just falls out of the sky of like, I don't know why there's not a big sample size with this guy at 3rd and long. It's like,
bro's not taking sacks either.
Exactly. He does. If you don't take sacks, you don't have negative plays, and you have a decent running game. And there was a couple plays in that game where you're like, he drops back and sits, and then he hits the check down, and he only gets like 2 or 3 yards. But it's like, now you're 2nd and 7 instead of 2nd and 10. That's a big difference. Yeah. And then you get a 3-yard run, and now you're 3rd and 3, and then you can just scramble for it or get. It's so much easier. You just makes your life so much easier. I remember Peyton Manning would always say, 1st down, 2nd down, 1st down. He didn't want to even get to 3rd downs. Like, let's get positive play, whatever it is, get something positive on 1st down. Let's try to get it on 2nd down, and then we're back to 1st down. But we've lived for the last decade in 3rd and longs, it feels like. And it's like when we did run it, you get stopped at the line of scrimmage, or you get 1 or 2. There was an incompletion or a possible sack, and now you're like, okay, now the drive is dead. And, I saw so many comments of people being like, oh, it's so nice to see us like converting 3rd downs consistently. I almost didn't know what to do. And it was like, yeah, because they were manageable. And that's what Bo Nix does. And that's what Sean Payton called.
I still have nightmares of, 2nd and long, 3rd and long, Drew Lock, his, drifting back into the pocket, then rolling out to the right, and then just throwing some terrible pass on the sideline or taking a sack.
You stay outside of hero ball when you don't have to be a hero. When you're not 3rd and 13 and we have to hold on to it forever. And now all of a sudden there's a strip sack because you were holding it forever because you didn't want to get rid of it or whatever it was. And, it just helps the offensive line so much. They're not going to get as tired because the ball's out. And it's just, these things are stacked on top of each other. And I think that's one of those small things that goes underrated.
No doubt.
And when it was 3rd and long, the only one, the 3rd and 10 obviously was that first down. That was an amazing throw on the run. The other 3rd and long, I think, was that screen that just went right through his hands. It looked like it was going to get blown up either way, but they don't want to call something risky where somebody's going to get hit. But that was really the only 3rd and longs that I can remember.
Yeah.
And, everything else was manageable. So that was nice.
It's a breath of fresh air. Did you guys have any thoughts on Jonah Ellis? I think he was one of the players I was most impressed with as well. Well, Jeremy, kick us off then. Give us your breakdown.
I know you did a video, David. Oh, shoot. Did I get...
You're here.
I might have paused. I might have.
I see you.
Right.
You're moving. You're speaking.
Okay. Okay. Good. Now, yeah. I know you did a video on it, and yeah, he's one of those guys that I don't know why. I guess it was just like Utah, not highly touted, but the guy just has an incredible motor, and that interception that we got that gave us the ability to have that 2 minute the last 2 minutes of the first half, that pick was created because of that pressure. And if you watch that play, I mean, it was like Von Miller-esque. He just does like this like move. It was like that same move that in the Super Bowl that he put hands on the guy, moved him over, and just flew around him. And you're like, oh.
I call it like a swipe. I don't know what they call it, but yeah.
Yeah. It was, but it was like such a, oh my gosh, I haven't seen that in a minute. You know, it didn't create he didn't need to do a full spin move, which is his kind of bread and butter. He didn't need to like go back and forth 3 times. It was just like that. I'm going to go into you, and then I'm going to move right by you all in one motion. I mean, that helps when your dad like probably taught you all that stuff, and he did it in the league forever. But yeah, no, it's this, you can't help but be very like excited. I think it was a mixture of the fact that he's kind of that tweener size, but man, I could see him, Benito Cooper, you got Jonathan Franklin Myers, and all of a sudden you're like looking pretty good. I know a lot of people were worried about the defense because they're like, oh, we gave up 30. Well, it's like, no, we gave up 23 because one was like a fumble recovery. Yeah. And that's our starting defense looked really solid. That was missing 4 starters, and our defensive line, man, the difference with Malcolm Roach in there, you just go, massive. Oh, this is totally.
And he's going to be a backup.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's going to be a depth player.
In like, the certain plays, like for those obviously run downs, him and Jones together will be like that. I mean, that was our biggest area of need besides quarterback last year. And if we can get that right, it's gonna, make them, hopefully there's no more 70-point games ever again, but make the opposing offenses like earn every single thing they get, like make it difficult. I want our DBs to just compete hard, even if that's the thing I always loved about Chris Harris and those kind of guys is if you're going to catch something on Chris Harris, it's not impossible, but man, you're going to earn it because you're not going to get anything free. And I liked that. Moss almost got a pick that was going to be like, I mean, he dove on the ground and just almost came up with one. And like we talked about Drain, and if Mathis can get some confidence back, yeah, Mathis, I mean, that hit him. I think it probably surprised him a little bit, but like, yeah, he almost had one. So I'm with this young group, I'm just excited to see them like, play together and have just like confidence of really attacking teams and don't sitting back and making things soft and try to like Fangio, his defense is like effective because it's like we're gonna give you underneath stuff, but you're gonna have to do 12 play drives on us, and somewhere down the line you're probably gonna screw up. But it's like you also realize with that type of defense is they're gonna have long drives, and you're gonna get like you're not gonna have as many opportunities.
Was notorious for those long drives against those Fangio defenses, man. Like he would. I feel like one game I went to at Mile High, he was like 18 of 20 for like under 200 yards. But again, he's completing 90% of his passes in that game.
Yeah. And I think Jim Leonard with those DBs and our safeties, I think that's a great coaching addition for those guys because, he's one of those leaders that when he was even on the field, you were like a vocal leader, and I'm excited just to see what they're going to do.
Yes. Going back to Jonah Ellis, one thing that really impressed me too was the fact that you saw him get pressures in a variety of ways. Like you said that, he showed that rip move or swipe move, whatever it is, there were a couple bull rushes. Say what, Mark?
Called the bull slip.
Yes. Okay. Bull slip. Thank you. And I think he might have thrown a spin out there too, but yeah, I was just elated seeing his performance. I'm curious what you guys think right now of the wide receivers. I know that Troy Franklin's getting some heat this week, man, especially with the traditional media. Like, all these guys are getting at. I'm going to be pissed off if we trade up for a guy and cut him. Obviously, Sean Payton, he gets the benefit of the doubt, but that would be the second move that I would be questioning quite a bit. In addition to, at this point, why don't you just bring back Justin Simmons? But that's not going to happen. Vele, I thought, looked okay. Had his ups and downs, but what'd you guys think of that room? David Sills, a few other guys. I guess we could talk about Dulcich and Kroll in this conversation as well, just the pass catchers, but we'd love to hear your thoughts on those rooms right now.
Yeah, it's a crowded room. It's a crowded room. It's a room that worries me, and it worries me for not because I don't think we're going to be productive. I think that we've got a lot of really good players, but for the exact same reason everybody's panicking about Troy Franklin, and him not really showing out, and he's really not getting a lot of opportunities. And that's because you've got a lot of vets ahead of him that are getting opportunities, right? I mean, same
in a 26-year-old rookie.
yeah, exactly. And you can say, Marvin Mims is even maybe getting hindered a little bit because he's just not getting on the field as much. And this is what I was worried that was going to happen with having Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton on the team. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not good players, but when you talk about embracing the rebuild, and you talk about the youth movement, bringing these young, hungry guys, the wide receiver room doesn't necessarily match that. It's kind of similar with the running back room too. But so it could be that, hey, week one, Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick, and Josh Reynolds obviously are the best options for the team to win the game. But is that at the expense of future development of these guys? So I think there's going to be some surprises when it comes to the room. I think Cortland Sutton and Josh Reynolds are a lock, unless a team comes out with a trade for Cortland Sutton, which I think that that window's kind of passed. But Tim Patrick you potentially could be the odd man out.
Yeah.
Just because it is such a crowded room, just because of the way Devon Vele's been playing, especially with the reports out of camp. Because it's like, what do you do with it? What do you do with these? Are they going to just play teams? Are they going to be inactive? It's going to be fascinating to watch. But I think overall, I like the room. I'm really optimistic about it. I think that we have enough there for Bo. And then really quickly on the tight ends before I'll get you guys' thoughts on it. I thought we cursed him. I thought we cursed our man Kroll. I really did. I thought we cursed him maybe twice. He had the fumble, then he had the two really explosive plays. The toe injury doesn't look like it's that serious. He was out, rest at practice. He didn't ultimately end up practicing today. So that it's good news that hopefully it's not anything that's gonna linger. But he's clearly a really explosive player. He just looks good. Like when I watched him again, he's smooth, he's fast, and he's a really big dude. Liked him a lot. Dulcich, man, if he can continue to be healthy, we know what he can do.
I was scared Bo Nix was about to send him to the hospital with that.
He almost killed him. He almost killed him. But luckily he came out of that clean. So if those two guys are healthy and they're on the field, it's going to be good. And then a special shout out to Camp Moyer. I'm not going to lie, because I was on my trip for 3 weeks. I had no idea we even had him. I was like, who the hell is this guy? I looked him up during the game.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked pretty good, man. But he's more of a blocking specialist. So he's someone, made a video on it, that I think is going to, I'm not going to say it now, but he has a really good chance of making the 53.
Yeah.
Because he's a blocking specialist, which Peyton loves, and it could be at the expense of Troutman. And if he can show that he can scoot a little bit, he can make some plays in the pass game. I think he can make this team. So, curious to what you guys thought overall.
Yeah, go ahead, Jared.
I'm gonna piggyback on what Big E Bronco said. It was the exact same point I was about to make. I think with where Troy Franklin was slotted to be drafted, and then he slid to the 4th, and then obviously the chemistry he already has with Bo Nix, we expected certain things out of him early, but I never go into a season with a rookie wide receiver expecting anything, because all of the greatest wide receivers the Denver Broncos have ever had, they did not come out of the gates. I mean, Rod Smith was on the practice squad for a year. You had, remember Brandon Marshall? He did nothing. It took Mike Shanahan basically calling him out in public, saying he was being soft about like milking an injury before he started to trying to show people.
Fourth round pick.
Yeah, and how talented was that guy? I mean, unbelievable. And people like Eric Decker and like DT. I mean, it takes time for. There's such a steep learning curve with Sean Payton, and Vele is it's just amazing how great he's doing in one respect, because you go, wow, this is a rookie and he's just so smooth. And who is this guy? Nobody even, when we drafted him, I remember like the people on TV were like, oh yeah, it's this guy. Yeah, like they were scrambling. They didn't have it pulled up, they didn't know who he was. But I mean, Troy Franklin turned 21 in February, and he could play out his entire rookie contract and still be almost 2 years younger than Vele is right now. So that just goes to show you
is right now.
Yeah. It's just like, yeah, exactly. And it just goes to show you, like, we need to be a little more patient with Troy. Like, to expect him to come in and be like, hey, act like Vele is just like, it's unrealistic. We've heard rumors of like, oh, he's getting talked to in camp. Maybe there's some maturity issues, whatever. But the guy's really talented. I guess he had a drop today where he completely beat the guy, and I think Zach Wilson put it on him and he dropped it. But again, rookie wide receivers, I always am like, they're a year out. No matter how talented they are. And you sometimes get the Justin Jeffersons where you're like, oh my gosh, we got something immediately, but usually not. Usually it takes a full year to kind of marinate in a system before you're really starting to see dividends on it. So for them to trade up for him and then now cut him would be, Sean Payton always talked about how he doesn't want to have a guy in camp and then them go to another team and then they exploded. And then he goes, oh my gosh, I can't believe we did that. So I just don't think they'll cut him.
Guys, there is a 0% chance that they cut him.
Thank you. I'm going to be pissed. That can't happen.
Absolutely.
That's impossible.
If he gets cut, guys, mark my words, all right? Mark my words on marquesports.com. I will literally sell my house for no reason.
It's got to be some Maurice Clarett type stuff, man.
There is not a chance. Not a chance in hell they cut him.
Sell your house to David so he doesn't have to move. How about that?
Exactly.
I mean, I think there's a 1% chance, but I think it's very rare. And I think I said it earlier too. I think there's a chance, not here. Tim Patrick could be the odd man out. Vele looks like Tim Patrick in every single way, including wearing his jersey, where we were watching Tim Jenkins, and Tim Jenkins was like, oh, look at this amazing, subtle pick this pick that wasn't a pick that sprung McLaughlin down the sideline. And what a veteran move that was. And he goes, man, Tim Patrick, look at that. And it was like, actually, that's Vele, because Tim Patrick changed numbers. But yeah, I think Vele could. You could. I saw David did a video about how much you could save moving on from Tim Patrick, and
it's like $7 million.
Yeah,
it's actually not.
I know he reworked his deal, and most of it's guaranteed now. But
you only save 1.2 because you got dead money of $6 million that you were going to pay regardless. Like whether you brought him into camp or not,
you pay him cash. I think you owe him cash, but I don't know. Let me pull up my screenshot again.
But either way,
with
Vele
the cap
is a threat to Tim Patrick.
Yes, but you owe him money. You are right, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, even if you traded him, that's $6 million and change. Like the team that trades for him would only have to pay him that 1.2, which makes him actually a really intriguing potential trade target for teams that, want to take a flyer on him. It's not going to cost them anything.
And you forget how many, Mims, I can't see them cutting Mims, obviously. Reynolds, Sutton, like we talked about with Franklin. And now, like, you have legit people who have been on the 53. They're like little Jordan Humphrey, Jalen Virgil, Brandon Johnson, who all those guys looked good on the game. I mean, Jalen Virgil had that run back. Brandon Johnson looked live when he caught that pass.
He always looks good.
He always looks good.
And I love that dude. I really do. He's like always looks good when he gets a chance.
Yes.
Those are tough cuts.
Well, do you think we keep 6 wide receivers? Like,
yeah.
What does your room look like that you keep?
I think 7.
I mean, the only problem with Franklin, not the only problem, but the main problem with Franklin is he doesn't give you a lot special teams wise, and you need special teams wise. I mean, he's just slight. He needs another year in the weight room as well. And that's another thing. I mean, he's got all the athleticism and ability. He just needs a year to again, 21 years old coming out is just a baby, especially in this offense. And especially when you're so skinny like that, he just needs a year. But man, I would hate to move on from him or just to go, oh, maybe we can get him on the practice squad. It's like this guy was borderline, fringe, almost first round pick going into the draft. I just don't think you're going to be able to slide him through. Some team is going to pick him up if you try to do that, try to get cute. And man, how bummed would you be to see him go to the Chiefs and then tear us up for years? You know what I mean? Just don't do it.
Yeah, I agree with what Biggie Bronco said. I think that there's a chance we keep 7 and we run thin on another position, whether it's line. I can also see a situation like if I was in the front office, which would be the coolest job ever, but would never happen. It would be I can see one of those situations where they probably end up just putting Troy Franklin on IR. They'll play him a lot in the third preseason game. They'll say he got a hammy or something, and they'll redshirt him through the IR that way to get him through. So it's a redshirt year, kind of like what they did with Palczewski last year, and then they could always, if they elect to keep him as an activation for later in the year, they can. So I think that's how you kind of work and manipulate that, but you'd still have to keep him on the 53, make your cuts, IR him, and then sign somebody else back to the 53 that clears waivers. So there's some gymnastics, but I think ultimately that's probably what's going to happen.
Okay.
That's my opinion. And
I don't mind that at all.
Sell your house, Mark. I don't want you to sell your house.
he ain't getting cut. I unless he gets in off the field trouble, which obviously you never hope for. He's not going. I can assure you he's not going.
Speed kill. Imagine if we got him and Mims.
Well, and he's a draft pick this year. I mean, you rarely see draft picks, even 7th rounders, not make a team. It's rare.
Right. They want to give you we believed in you. We want to give you all the opportunity to fail, basically.
Like Nick
Gargiulo. Yeah.
He's probably going to get IR because he's hurt already. But if he wasn't, he'd probably still be somebody that makes his team as well. And he's a guard, and we've got some guys that are probably better than him currently in a reserve role. So it's just so rare that you have draft picks that you end up moving on from.
Yeah. I got a question. I've seen this brought up on Twitter. Ideas about Riley Moss maybe transitioning to safety. Could that be a way in which we save some room on the roster if we want to have, an expanded wide receiver room? I don't know. I thought he looked pretty good tackling, but still kind of struggled a little bit with some of those quicker guys. I wonder if he might be better as a safety than a corner, but curious what you guys think.
That's racist. It's because he's white.
That's the first thing I thought of too. I was like, yeah, white corner makes sense for him to go to safety. Yeah. No, but I think it's funny because when you look at him from a physical attributes, he's genuinely a freak of nature when it comes to him. He's as explosive, he's as quick as any corner we have on this roster outside of PS2, obviously. And the comments today that Sean Payton said after the practice were really eye-opening. I thought he looked fine in the game. I don't really.
What did he say?
he said that somebody asked him, what do you think about Riley Moss and his traits? And he says, one thing I'll tell you about him is that he's very, very, very good at shadowing and being sticky in terms of in man coverage. And so it was interesting to say that. And I think that they feel very positive about him. I think for me, I really love Damari Mathis and I really love Chris Abrams-Durant. I just think Damari Mathis is a dog. He brings kind of that dog element to him. But I'm so curious about Riley Moss because I feel like I don't know anything about him. But I don't think a transition to safety would make sense for him. At least not this early in his career. I think you gotta see it out, and he's a really good special teams player. I think that's where he'll cut his teeth, at least for the first couple years. And I think he's also somebody that absolutely can get some playing time if he doesn't end up winning the job. But I'm really curious. I definitely want to see more of him. And did you have a tape breakdown of him, David?
I do have like 5 plays of his charted. I'll come out with this tomorrow. But
okay.
Oh wow! Actually, I have like
to
12 plays, so maybe I'll go through the whole thing. But I thought he had some really good moments where he looked good in coverage. Others where it's like, man, like I would like you to play that a little bit better. But overall, he didn't look bad. Like I still overall, like I thought he looked good, and I think that's a big win for Riley Moss. And
he's a big dude. I mean, that's the thing. Like he's long. He's 6'1". He's got really short arms actually. But he's 6'1". His testing is crazy off the charts. And it's funny because you hear some reports at camp that he's really good at man coverage. I guess they played a lot more man from what I had seen in the last game. But at Iowa was a very zone-heavy defense, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe that versatility.
It was.
But he's like the one player on the roster that kind of drives me nuts because I feel like I don't know anything about it. I just want to see him play more. So hopefully he gets a lot more playing time.
Yes, and if Mathis can have that bounce back, I think that really does change like the calculus in the secondary, man. If you truly got a Damari Mathis that's playing at the height of his potential, I think
he just can't catch
everything. Yeah, he just can't catch.
And you know what's funny? I noticed it his rookie year, and then I looked it up because I was like just checking out his profile thing. This is a while ago, and he's got legitimate baby hands. Like, go look at the size of his, and maybe that's why he can't catch because his hands are so small.
Sense.
It's got the Jared Goff
eight and a quarter.
Yeah, that's small hands,
which is like in the second percentile or something crazy like that. And listen, there might not be a straight correlation there, but yeah, he's got baby hands. So
wow,
maybe that's why he can't catch. But hey, I'm good with PBUs too.
I know we're about at the hour mark. I do want to touch here, if it's okay, guys, get your thoughts on the running back room, and then I guess we can wrap things up. Right in my video that I did yesterday on like potential cap casualties, like I think it is really interesting, the idea of cutting or getting rid of Perine, Stidham, and Tim Patrick if our other guys continue to perform well, saving $15 million, rolling that over. But all that to say, if I had to choose one, even though pretty much everybody had a fumble in that room outside of Javonte Williams and I guess McLaughlin on Sunday, man, I loved how all the running backs looked. If you can get a draft pick for Perine, I say I think you do it, man. The Cowboys got to be desperate. They don't want to be running out a half of what Zeke used to be out there. And Bengals, other running backs, I'm sure are going to go down this week. So thoughts on the running back room? Do you see them keeping 4 like Big E?
No, I mean, I made a video on it yesterday. Check it out if you guys haven't seen it. Everyone in the chat, it's talking specifically about the running backs. I don't think. I think it's safe to say. Well, it's funny because at first I'm like, it's safe to say that Perine's not going to be on the team just because it's crowded. And don't get it wrong, he's a good player. He was, in my opinion, he was our best. He was our best, most complete back last year.
Yes.
But then I was thinking about it a lot earlier, and it seems like they're so intent on like him being the third down back. And I know that it's important for Sean Payton and his offense to have a third down back. It's what it seems like, even though the history doesn't always show that. So unless someone can step up in that role, he might be able to get a chance. But I think Perine's gone. Listen, I'm the kind of guy that when it comes to running backs, give me the young dudes that are explosive. I would prefer a room that had Jaleel McLaughlin starting, Audric Estime backing him up, and Blake Watson mixed in, and getting rid of Javonte and Pirine.
Yeah.
Not a hater. I love Javonte, but I talk about it as to why. I like the smaller, quick, and Blake Watson looked good. Blake Watson, he's buttery smooth. He really is. But I think that ultimately, I think Pirine's gone, and I don't know about Javonte. It's one of those where it's tough. It's tough, but I think it could be one of those situations where one of these guys is going to get IR'd in that same fashion to play the 53-man roster, because I don't think keeping 5 makes any sense.
You can't.
Even 4 is tough. But who can you hide and legitimately practice squad? I mean, if they stop using Blake Watson, they can probably get him onto the practice squad. But yeah. So.
I think Tyler Beatty is going to be our guy. Like, I think we'll be able to keep him on the practice squad. But
he's good. He's always making plays too.
Yeah, he looks slippery.
The running backs. There's always a lot of good backs.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of finding the most complete one. So that's a really interesting room.
Yeah.
Just like with receiver, probably even more so, because there's so many different combinations of how it can go, and you're gonna have some really good players that might not be on this team. So,
Jeremy, how do you handle it?
Jeremy, we can see you. Oh, he's frozen now.
Yeah. Oh well.
I think Jeremy agrees with everything that we said. That would be my case based off his face right there.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, okay, we got Jeremy back.
Okay, sorry. I could hear you guys. I don't know. You couldn't hear me. I think there's 3 locks. I think Javonte's a lock, McLaughlin's a lock, and obviously Estime's a lock. Yeah, you're definitely keeping him. Blake Watson's going to be tough. When he got his chances, he looked like he had juice. I was like, oh, man. You hadn't heard much about him in camp, and then all of a sudden you saw him run. You go, I don't know if we could slip him to the practice squad. Man, Pirine, you haven't heard anything out of him all training camp, and then that fumble, obviously, or the bobble or whatever you want to call it, didn't help. But, with age getting up there and saving the $3 million, it's just that's going to be a tough one. But I think, the front 3 are – it's almost like that's locked down.
I will say this in response to Let's Talk Nuggets. They probably won't have him actually practice there, but Blake Watson was a wide receiver at Old Dominion before he transferred to Memphis for his last year, where he transitioned to running back. Memphis has a lot of success with these types of dual threat running backs, so to speak. So maybe I'd like to see 4 kept. I think we're going to be running the ball a lot, but I know that keeping 4 with a fullback, Burton, is tough, or, Atkins, maybe he's able to fill in for him if we decide to get rid of him. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Sean Payton does there, because I don't know, just like that, when Zach Wilson hit Blake Watson for that wheel route, that 33-yard nice. I'm just like, yes, this is what I was hoping for. That type of stuff. I don't know. We'll see how he performs. But Douglas Wall coming in here saying, off topic, sorry, Pittsburgh versus Broncos. Broncos wearing all white, Pittsburgh all black. Thoughts? I guess the all white will look pretty cool. Man, I hope Russell Wilson's on the team for the fact that he has to come back here. I just don't think he will be. I think they're going to cut him, but what do I know? Y'all's thoughts?
I think the all white is something that Tampa Bay does a lot of times, especially earlier in the season. They make sure they're wearing the whites when the other teams are traveling, coming into Tampa Bay, and they have to be standing in the sun. And I think it's just goes to show you, Sean Payton is he's all about details. And if I can have you standing in the sun wearing black for 3 hours, I'm going to make you do it. And that's one of those games that could potentially be really hot. And
gets hot here in September still. Yeah.
And the whites look good. The whites looked good. I liked the way they looked on Sunday. But yeah, I think that's kind of, when I first saw that, it didn't make sense. And then I thought about it and I was like, oh my gosh, he just, it's like that 52-80 type of, we're going to put it on the jersey. We're going to put it on the wall as you walk out onto the field. We're going to make you think about every little thing when you're coming here. And we're going to, this little bit, it's just going to make it a little bit harder. And I think that's a good sign, honestly, of just somebody who doesn't let anything slip by. There was that story about the towels that they used to have in the Saints fans would twirl, and he saw them and he's like, oh, these aren't good enough. We have to have more legitimate, towels or whatever. Like, I love a coach who's willing to like go to that level of detail on stuff. Cause to him, it's like, everything matters. It's the Dion thing too, where it's like, look good, feel good, all that. Everything is like, it matters. And I think that was I don't know if it's going to pay off, but I'm just
gonna laugh when it's like 52 degrees and raining.
I know it's gonna
or like there's a snow on the 15th of September. We're like, damn it.
Yeah.
now we're screwed because we're in all white throwing around in a snowstorm.
Yeah. They want to sell more white jerseys for that first game. So they were like, let's push the whites out first game.
I loved how the uniforms looked, but Mark, I can't unsee the toothbrush now that you pointed that out. Man.
I was about to say it. I know. The stripe on the leg, it looks just like a toothbrush. And now you guys are going to see it every time.
That's all right.
Every time.
Yeah.
So,
all right, guys. Well, any last thoughts? Any last stuff you guys got to get off your chest before? I guess we'll get together. Hopefully we can do a post game after the Packers game. But I'd love to keep this going as long as you guys can put up with me.
Dude,
I could put up with you as long as I need to, man. It's easy.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, well, the blast.
Thank you guys for joining. Mark, before we shut things down, let everybody know what videos you've put out recently, things you got coming up soon, and then we'll shut this thing down.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Marky Sports is the channel. Definitely, check it out. Let me know what you guys think. It's really revolved around Denver Nuggets abs news. Obviously, during the Broncos season, it's going to be all the Broncos Nuggets abs. It's going to be all about the Broncos moving forward. And I'll mix in a lot of fantasy football content. But we had recently, broken down week 1, some reactions there, talked specifically about Bo Nix and some roster construction stuff. We had a video yesterday about the running back room. We'll have some things about, more specifics about the wide receiver room, and then a 53-man prediction video. I'll probably do that after the second game, previewing that. So definitely tune in. I'd love to create a community. This is exactly what I wanted when I started the channel. Jeremy reached out, and then David reached out, and I love it. And I've never met both these guys in person, but I feel like they're wonderful friends of mine. I've known them for a long time. So that's what I want to do, is continue to build it, meet more people. Anybody and everybody except for Raiders fans are allowed on my channel. And so come on board. So that's all I got.
Absolutely love it. Please, all Broncos fans, got to subscribe to Marky Sports. So greatly appreciate you coming on as always. And that dog wants everyone to like and subscribe. Hilarious.
It does.
Yeah. And give a shout out, to Let's Talk Nuggets too, man. This kid is grinding, and I want to see him reach monetization just like you, Mark. So I'll tell you the film rooms I got coming. I'll drop them tomorrow and Friday. Zach Wilson, close to every snap. Jonah Ellis, I got like 5 plays we'll go through. Bo Nix, I've charted all of his dropbacks. I don't know if I'll go through all of them, but I thought it was pretty interesting. And then Riley Moss. So I got all that cut up. I just got to record it, put it out there, and then I'll be back here for Sunday post game. Either Sunday night if you guys are available to do that after the game, or we could go Monday. I am moving midweek next week, so you'll probably see me then kind of pop up again closer to next weekend. So thank you guys so much. Like and subscribe on the way out. That's super helpful as always. And
my dog has to make an appearance now.
Oh yes. Yeah. I got to get a cute dog, and then we can all share. So you guys have a great night, everyone. As always, go Broncos.